What is the very latest there?
Well, yes, the Corona cabinet is deciding what they need to do because there is a really serious rise in cases, and the way the public is behaving is really not corresponding to that rise. Because at the moment, the number of daily infections, it's very close to what it was at the peak of the coronavirus outbreak here in Israel around over a month ago. And then everybody was in lockdown. Many businesses were not allowed to operate. And that caused the number of infections to go down. And after that, they had to reopen the economy, the government, and now the infections are going back up. But people are not really feeling it in their perception because they went through that period where the amount of infections went down and people are not being careful, not wearing masks, everyone's touching, hugging. We're seeing tons of people on the beach, tons of people out and about. And at this rate, there is a good chance that the number will rise way beyond what it was at the peak here in Israel, which is why the cabinet is looking to implement restrictions, something that won't go down very well with the public.
And Alec, what are we hearing in regards to testing? I know the Israeli government was saying it wanted to test some 60,000 people per day. Is that possible?
60,000, that will be difficult. The government did say earlier on in the crisis that their goal, the benchmark they had set for themselves, was 30,000 a day. They never hit that benchmark. They reached at maximum around 15,000 a day, no more than that. So 60,000, that's more than double the benchmark, which they only reached half of the benchmark they set for themselves, 30,000, meaning they need to increase by 400% in order to reach 60,000 a day. That's a very difficult thing to do. If they apply the resources to it, then potentially they can do it, but that's a lot of testing. It is a lot of testing.
It certainly is. Alec, tell me, what are you seeing on the ground in regards to police presence? I know that you've really been out and about covering this renewed outbreak for the last week or so.
Well, yesterday on the beach in Tel Aviv, or in the Jaffa near our studios, I did see policemen walking around and giving people warnings and fines for not walking around with masks. That was the situation around 2 months ago, where people were getting fines just for walking around on the beach without a mask. And then they stopped doing it, the police. They stopped enforcing it because the number of infections went down, and there was this feeling that the coronavirus is over. And now that it's coming back, we're also seeing that the law enforcement of various issues is also coming back. We don't see it so much over here in Bat Yam at the moment, early in the morning, maybe later in the afternoon. We will see it, and specifically in Tel Aviv, which is a major city and also where the law tends to be enforced more rigorously on these kinds of issues because there's so many people over there. Then we are seeing the comeback of the fines as it would, and that's something that works. You know, fining people does cause them to wear masks, for instance.
You're certainly right there, and certainly, Alec, a lot of people really concerned that if there is another lockdown, it could be similar to the last time. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll come back to you a little later on. Moving on, and with just 3 days left until Israel says it will begin annexation of parts of the West Bank, Palestinians are continuing to mount pressure on the United States and Jerusalem to halt plans, with Ramallah further threatening to pull any security cooperation it has with Israel, which would potentially throw the region into chaos. Defence Minister Benny Gantz says he's willing to immediately meet with Palestinians to advance reciprocal moves if Israel annexes West Bank territory. Now, this is a US delegation is here in Israel to meet with senior officials after lengthy talks in Washington last week failed to come up with any agreement on annexation plans. Now, within the so-called peace plan drawn up by the Trump administration, Israel can apply sovereignty to up to 30% of the West Bank. At least 6 people are dead in Syria following another airstrike in the space of a week, with the attack coming right after a visit by the head of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, Esmail Ghani, to Iranian troops in Syria. Now, the timing of the announcement.
Nothing in the Middle East is coincidental. I believe that there is a very important message here in terms of what is at stake if the Prime Minister and the Israeli government proceed with the annexation. Many view that any movement in that direction would be pouring cold water on the warming of relations. An example being in terms of what the Prime Minister in UAE announced today. So I don't believe that anything here is coincidental. And this is just one more example of how far Israel and the Gulf can go if we continue on the path to peace and at the same time looking for ways to cooperate and to bring Israel and the Gulf together.
Now, 5 months after the first case of coronavirus was diagnosed in the United States, the nation is facing its highest number of infections, and a handful of states are posting their largest single-day numbers. Whitney Wild has more.
Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Tennessee, and Utah. On Friday, these 5 states recorded their highest single-day coronavirus infection numbers since the pandemic began. And Saturday, Florida reported 9,585 new cases, topping the previous record set the day before. Now mayors in the state announcing several popular beaches will be closed for the 4th of July weekend.
We expected huge crowds to be at the beach. It would have been very hard for us to control our social distancing and having people abide by the rules. We don't want a spike on top of a spike.
Nationwide, 32 states saw surges in case numbers over the past 7 days. This has pushed 11 states to make the tough decision to pause or roll back their reopening.
If I could go back and redo anything, it probably would have been to slow down the opening of bars. People go to bars to get close and to drink and to socialize. And that's the kind of thing that stokes the spread of the coronavirus.
And according to a new antibody survey by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the actual number of those infected could be 6 to 24 times greater than previously thought. Medical experts say they're not surprised.
We're still at a point where we're not able to get tests to every single person that we would like to in our emergency departments around the country.
I'm Whitney Wild reporting.
Now, we're just days into summer, but parents are anxious to return to normal and have one question on their mind. Will schools reopen this fall? Well, the answer seems to change day by day, state by state. Here's the latest.
On lazy summer days, school seems like a distant memory, especially when the last day inside a school was in March.
When I first came in this morning, I had winter stuff out still.
In Greenburgh, New York, teachers are cleaning out classrooms and searching for clarity about the fall.
We're packing up, and do I set up for fall, clean up and set up? I don't know.
The question is simple, the answer complex. How do you keep teachers and students healthy while ensuring educational standards?
Number one, next year is going to look really different than anything anybody's ever imagined before.
Governors around the country are planning for either partial or full reopenings in the coming months. In Iowa, officials say regular school activities can restart by July 1st. In Connecticut, Governor Ned Lamont will allow schools to host in-person instruction by fall.
We wanted to have as close to possible a normal school day.
As coronavirus cases continue to climb in 32 states, some health experts say a sense of normalcy won't be in session until May or June of 2021.
The single biggest determinant of whether a kid's going to be able to go to school or not is not the plan of the school, not how much deep cleaning they're doing, temperature checks. It's about how much virus there is in the community.
I'm Whitney Wild reporting.
Moving on, and Democratic presidential hopeful Joe Biden has come out to slam Donald Trump following a report by the New York Times, which said that American intelligence found the Russian military offered bounties to Taliban-linked militants in Afghanistan to assassinate American troops. Now, so far, Washington hasn't commented on the article, but Biden is on the attack, saying that Trump's entire presidency has been a gift to the Kremlin.
President Trump, the commander-in-chief of American troops serving in a dangerous theater of war, has known about this for months, according to the Times, and done worse than nothing. Not only has he failed to sanction or impose any kind of consequences on Russia for this egregious violation of international law, Donald Trump has continued his embarrassing campaign of deference and debasing himself before Vladimir Putin.
Now, the gears of a cultural shift are turning in America, sparked largely by the death of George Floyd in Minneapolis more than 1 month ago. The city of Minneapolis is now making big moves to eliminate its police department, but it doesn't stop there. Landmark hate crime legislation is now law in Georgia, where Ahmaud Arbery was killed, and Colorado has just reopened an investigation into the 2019 police killing of black man Elijah McClain. Nadia Romero has the latest.
We saw injustice with our own eyes. Georgians protested to demand action, and state lawmakers, many who are gathered here today, rose to the occasion.
New hate crime legislation is now law in Georgia after Ahmaud Arbery, a 25-year-old black man out for a jog, was shot and killed in February. House Bill 426 criminalizes acts of hate targeting the victim's race, religion, sexual orientation, and mental and physical disability.
This bipartisan legislation is a powerful step forward. It's a sign of progress.
In Minneapolis, more than a month after the death of George Floyd, the city council unanimously voted to kickstart the process to eliminate the city's police department and create a new department providing community safety and violence prevention. The first step could lead to voters making the final call this November.
This is one action of many that we need to take on this road to a more equitable and just system that keeps people safe.
And in Aurora, Colorado, the governor has reopened the investigation into the death of Elijah McClain, a 23-year-old black man who died in police custody after he was placed in a chokehold and paramedics injected him with a powerful sedative, ketamine.
Last fall, we called for an independent investigation into the murder of Elijah McClain, and what did we hear then? Crickets. So, on the one hand, they're very happy that people are paying attention now.
I'm Nadia Romero reporting.
A Yiddish treat is becoming the new hot.
Then everybody was in lockdown. Many businesses